The soup was still steaming when Ricardo Salazar knocked it out of a dying man's hands. Not literally, not yet, but the room already felt like a held breath. Every fork in the golden table froze halfway to every mouth. Rain lashed the windows sideways, hard enough to rattle the glass. And in the corner, a woman in a faded gray coat sat gripping an empty paper cup like it still had warmth left to give. "Don't serve her. She's not a customer." Ricardo said it loud enough for the whole restaurant to hear, and that was the point. The diner sat on the edge of Villaflor, a small town in the Argentine interior, and it smelled the way small-town diners always do: burnt coffee, warm grease, vinyl booths scrubbed one too many times. Tonight it also smelled like rain and shame. The woman in gray called herself Marina Sosa. That was the name she'd given the waitress when she asked, quietly, for something small and hot, promising to pay as soon as she could. The waitress looked her up and down. "This isn't a soup kitchen," she muttered. A man in a pale blue shirt snorted a laugh. Another woman clutched her purse tighter to her chest. Marina lowered her eyes and said nothing, because she'd learned, over the course of one very long day, that saying nothing was safer. That was when Tomás Ibarra walked in. A few coins in his pocket, a pharmacy bag under his arm, and the worn-out walk of a father who'd already spent the whole day being strong for someone else. He didn't look like a hero. His jacket cuffs were frayed at the seams. Back home, in an apartment above a shuttered hardware store, his 8-year-old daughter Sofia was probably drawing houses with yellow windows. She always did that when she needed the world to feel safe. He'd promised her dinner. Nothing fancy. Tomato soup, 2 slices of bread, maybe butter if the cook was in a good mood. It was going to be the last real meal before payday, stretched carefully, split fairly. He ordered at the counter and paid with folded bills and coins gone warm from being held too long. Then he heard Ricardo's voice. "Get her out of here." Marina rose slowly, her cheeks burning with shame, not anger. "Sorry," she said. "I just needed to sit for a minute." "Then sit outside," Ricardo said. Tomás turned around, tray in his hands, the soup trembling in its white bowl. He looked at Marina. Then at the door, where rain was falling sideways across the sidewalk. He took a breath, the kind of breath a man takes when he knows doing the right thing is about to cost him something. He walked to her table and set the tray down. "Tonight, she's a customer," he said quietly. "And who exactly are you?" Ricardo asked, smiling without any warmth in it. "Just a man sharing his dinner." Tomás slid the paper napkin out from under the bread, folded one slice carefully, and tucked it into his jacket pocket, for Sofia. "Eat it while it's hot," he told Marina. She looked at him like he'd handed her something far bigger than a bowl of soup. No one in that restaurant knew that the woman they just humiliated was actually Camila Ferrari, the owner of the very restaurant chain that owned every table, every sign, every secret in the building. Tomás had no idea who she really was, and somehow that mattered more than anyone in the room could have understood. If he'd known, the gesture might have looked smaller. But he knew nothing except that a woman was cold, hungry, and being made to feel invisible. "You think this makes you some kind of saint?" Ricardo asked. Tomás didn't answer right away. The rain kept hammering the glass. "No," he finally said. "I think it makes her warm for 10 minutes. 10 years earlier, Tomás had installed HVAC systems for a living. He made good money and came home every evening to a house with porch lights on and laughter inside the walls. Then his wife, Elena, got sick. Then came the debt. Then he lost the house. Then Elena was gone. What remained was Sofia, a shoebox of photographs, and a promise whispered next to a hospital bed: raise her with kindness, and never let the world teach her that love has a price tag. Since then he'd worked nights unloading trucks at a food warehouse off the provincial highway, and weekends doing odd jobs, fixing a light, a loose door, a tired old dryer. Even so, the apartment stayed cold near the windows, and the refrigerator made a hollow sound whenever Sophia opened it. What scared Tomas wasn't hunger. It was the letter from the family services office, the one that said they'd be reviewing custody if he couldn't prove steady income, adequate housing, and regular meals. That same afternoon, Sophia had stood by the window in her pajamas, holding up a drawing of the two of them at a long table full of food. "Dad, when you get paid, can we have soup with noodles?" "We can do better than that, sweetheart," he'd told her. "Maybe even bread." She'd smiled like he'd promised her a castle. That was why this bowl of soup mattered so much. It wasn't just food. It was proof he could still bring something home. And yet, under the fluorescent lights, watching Marina lift the spoon with shaking hands, Tomas felt no regret. Just a strange calm. Because a man who has almost nothing can still choose, hold on to the little he has until it hardens something inside him, or give a piece of it away and remember he's still human. Marina took a spoonful, and her eyes filled with something she tried to hide. Tomas looked away, to protect what was left of her dignity. His mind, though, had already drifted. Back to the glass tower downtown, that same morning, on the 40th floor, where Camila Ferrari had sat at the head of a conference table while Ricardo Salazar clicked through slides full of smiling families and words like community and commitment. The numbers were perfect. Too perfect. What happened to the community kitchen program? Camila had asked. Funds got reallocated, Ricardo answered without missing a beat. Underused. Expensive. People were taking advantage of it. Camila looked again at a photo of a boy holding a bowl of soup under the company logo. She'd approved that campaign herself, 7 years earlier, back when her father was alive and still believed a restaurant owed the world something beyond profit. Then the envelope arrived. No return address, delivered by security straight to her private office. Inside, a complaint from a former warehouse worker, photos of untouched trays of food dumped behind the location, and a note in handwriting. "They're using your name to turn hungry people away." Underneath, one more line, "Ask about Villaflor." Camila told no one. She canceled her afternoon meetings, took off the watch her mother had given her, left her phone and her car behind, and bought a gray coat at a second-hand shop. She took a few coins, a bus ticket, and the name Marina Sosa, simple enough to disappear inside. All day she'd walked into stores bearing her own family's logo. At one, a cashier told her the bathroom was for customers only. At another, a manager asked her to leave before the dinner rush. At a company grocery store, a security guard trailed her down the aisle until she stepped back out into the cold. No one shouted, not at first. That was what surprised her most. Cruelty doesn't always arrive loud. Sometimes it comes with a smile that never reaches the eyes, a policy recited without an ounce of compassion, a door held open only so someone can be pushed back through it. By the time she reached Villaflor, the rain had soaked through her shoes, and her pride was more worn out than her coat. Ricardo leaned closer to the table. "She's making everyone uncomfortable," he told Tomas. "No," Tomas said. "Hunger makes people uncomfortable. I just put a bowl in front of it." "Do you do this a lot?" Marina asked quietly. "Only when someone needs it more than I do." "And do you?" Tomas glanced toward the window, where the rain ran down in silver lines. "I've got a little girl waiting for me at home," he said. "Her name's Sophia." Marina set down her spoon. "Then take it back to her." "No, please, eat. No speeches. Just a line drawn with quiet dignity." Inside his pocket, Tomas touched the bread wrapped in its napkin, a heart drawn in purple crayon, a backward letter S beside it. "Did she draw that?" Marina asked. "Every morning she puts hearts on things she wants me to remember." "What did she want you to remember today?" "To come home." Something caught in Marina's throat. All day, people trained to measure a person's worth by a cash register had turned her away. Now a man in worn-out boots, with a letter from social services waiting on his kitchen table, was guarding half a slice of bread like it was treasure. Ricardo crossed his arms. "This is a sentimental little performance," he said. "I'm asking you, for the last time, to leave." Tomas turned to face him fully. "And I'm asking you, for the last time, to let her finish eating." The waitress froze near the coffee machine. The manager's smile disappeared. Even the man in the blue shirt set down his phone. Ricardo's eyes narrowed, like he was placing Tomas under a different light. "Ibarra," he said slowly. "Tomas Ibarra. Works the warehouse. Night shift. I remember you now. You're the one with the ridiculous complaints. Said we were throwing out good food." "It wasn't a complaint," Tomas said. "It was food." 3 words, simple and heavy. Ricardo took another step, lowering his voice just enough to sound personal while making sure the whole room could still hear him. "You want to know what I think? I think men like you love a cause, because it distracts you from your own failures. Can't fix your own life, so you go around pointing at everyone else's." Tomas didn't defend his poverty. He didn't list the shifts, the debts, the nights he slept cold so Sofia wouldn't have to. "Tell me, Tomas," Ricardo pressed. "Is this how you feed your daughter? Giving away your dinner to strangers so people can applaud you?" "Leave my daughter out of this," Tomas said. "Why? She's part of the story, isn't she? The struggling father, the sad little girl, the heroic bowl of soup." Almost touching. With a careless flick of his hand, Ricardo shoved the tray. The bowl tipped. Soup spilled across the table, the floor, and the toe of Tomas's worn-out boot. Nobody laughed this time. Tomas looked down at the soup on the floor. He looked at Marina, her eyes wet with anger and grief. He crouched down, picked up the spoon, and set it carefully back on the table. "You shouldn't have done that," he said. "And what are you going to do about it?" Ricardo sneered. Tomas pulled a handful of napkins from the dispenser and started wiping the floor himself, slowly. Not because Ricardo deserved it. Because once, Sofia had asked him why people should have to clean up messes they didn't make, and he told her, because the world gets better when someone decides to make it better. Marina watched him kneel there among the wreckage of the meal, protecting everyone's dignity but his own. And in that quiet gesture, she understood more than any report could ever have shown her. He finished cleaning. The soup was gone, the bowl was empty, and the little purple heart in his pocket had gone damp at the corner from rain, steam, and the shame of the whole room. Marina stood, still wearing the gray coat, still playing a woman with nowhere to go. But something in her eyes had changed. "Thank you," she whispered. Tomas nodded once. "Find somewhere dry tonight." "Come on," he said. "I'll walk you to the bus stop." He pulled the folded bread from his pocket, made sure it was still clean, and held it for a second like a man holding his last promise. Then he left 2 coins on the table, the only tip he had, and walked out into the rain beside the woman he believed was poor. Someone had already filmed the whole thing, and posted it before the door finished swinging shut. But the video didn't show Tomas offering his food. It didn't show Ricardo insulting his daughter. It didn't show the soup spilled on purpose. It started with Tomas standing over the fallen bowl, Ricardo's calm, professional voice playing underneath, and a headline already written to make the world a little crueler: "Warehouse worker causes scene at the golden table." By morning it had spread across Villaflor and beyond. People who'd never gone hungry decided what hunger was supposed to look like. People who'd never received a letter from social services decided what kind of father Tomas was. At 6:10 a.m., his supervisor called. "Tomas, I have to suspend you. Until this gets sorted out." "You saw the video," Tomas said. "HR saw it. I know there's more to it, I believe you. But believing isn't a signed form." Sofia was asleep on the couch under a thin blanket, because the bedroom window let in too much cold. Her drawing from the night before sat on the table next to the social services letter, a house, a long table, 3 bowls of soup, a purple heart over the door. At 8:30, the phone rang again. This time it was the caseworker. "Mr. Ibarra, we received a report about an incident at your workplace. Given the ongoing review, we're going to need updated proof of income and household stability. How much time do I have?" Tomas asked. "Not much," she said carefully. Sofia appeared in the hallway, barefoot, rubbing her eyes. "Dad, are they going to take me?" Tomas dropped to her level and pulled her into his arms, unable to say no, unable to promise anything except the shelter of his own 2 arms. Meanwhile, on the 40th floor, Camila Ferrari watched the edited video once, then again, then a 3rd time with the sound off, because sometimes lies show themselves more clearly in silence. She still had the gray coat on over her blouse. "I need the store's security footage," she told her assistant, Julia Moyano. "Every angle. Counter, dining room, kitchen, parking lot. Audio if they have it." "Ricardo's going to ask why," Julia said. "Let him." 3 hours later, the files arrived, each one colder than the last. Camila watched Marina sitting alone in the corner. Watched the waitress refuse her coffee. Watched Ricardo walk in, his suit sharp, his cruelty even sharper. Watched Tomas pay for his meal with carefully counted coins, then set the tray in front of a stranger without a single word, only compassion. She saw the part the public video had cut, Ricardo bringing up Tomas's daughter, the tray tipping over, the soup spilling, and Tomas kneeling down, not to argue, but to clean up a mess that wasn't his. She saw the parking lot camera, Tomas walking Marina to the bus stop under a rain-lit gold by the street lamps, pulling off his own work jacket to drape over her shoulders even as he shivered. Waiting with her until the bus came. Stepping back to give her space, give her dignity, never once asking her name. When the bus pulled away, Tomas stood alone under the broken awning and pulled the folded napkin from his pocket. The bread was damp at one edge. He checked it anyway, carefully, hopefully, like love could still carry itself home even after a night like that. "Find him," Camila said. "Tomas Ibarra." "For legal?" Julia asked. "For justice." By noon she had his file. The history of complaints, the request for a modified schedule he'd filed because of Sofia's situation. Ricardo had marked it denied. Reason, low priority. Camila read those 2 words twice. Low priority. A widowed father trying to keep his daughter fed, filed away as low priority by a company built on the idea of feeding families. At 3 p.m., the boardroom was full of people who thought the meeting was about protecting the brand. Ricardo sat up front with an open legal folder, his tie perfect, wearing the calm expression of guilty men who've rehearsed it in the mirror. Around him, directors, communications staff, regional managers, and 2 lawyers who'd already drafted a statement calling Tomas's conduct unfortunate, disruptive, and inconsistent with company values. Camila walked in last. No suit. No watch. No polish. Just the same gray coat from the diner, the cuffs still damp, the hem still stained with rain. The room went quiet fast. "Camila, we were just going over the incident," Ricardo said, half rising from his chair. "Sit down," she said. "We have a strategy." "No. You have a story you made up." She set a remote on the table and nodded toward the screen at the end of the room. The public video played, the one everyone had already seen, Tomas beside the spilled soup, Ricardo looking composed, the headline accusing a warehouse worker of starting a scene. "As you can see," Ricardo said, "he caused the incident." Camila pressed the remote again. A new video filled the screen. Marina, alone in the corner. The waitress turning her away. Ricardo's voice, "Get her out of here. She's not a customer." A few faces shifted. Not much, at first. Just a jaw tightening, a mouth going flat, the quiet discomfort of recognizing a truth before anyone's ready to say it out loud. She pressed it again. Tomas walking in, counting his coins, paying for his soup and bread, turning at the sound of the humiliation, crossing the room, and setting the only meal he'd bought down in front of a stranger. The audio was clear. "Tonight, she's a customer." No one in the room moved. "That angle doesn't show the full context," Ricardo said. "Then let's keep watching," Camila said. The video rolled on. Ricardo mocking Tomas's job, bringing up his daughter, calling his kindness a sentimental little performance. Then the tray tipping, the soup spilling, and Tomas, instead of shouting, dropping to his knees with a fistful of napkins. The room went so quiet the air conditioning sounded like wind across an empty field. A lawyer closed his folder slowly. A woman from communications turned the draft statement face down on the table. "He filed false complaints," Ricardo tried. "Accusations about our food waste process." Camila pressed the remote once more. Photos appeared, sealed trays of good food dumped behind a store, bags of bread marked for disposal, internal emails with Ricardo's own approval. Then a scanned copy of Tomas's complaint, filed 6 weeks earlier, respectful, detailed, ignored. "Mr. Ibarra told the truth before any of us had the courage to listen to it," Camila said, calm. Ricardo stood. "This company can't be run on emotion." Camila turned toward him, and the gray coat suddenly looked less like a disguise and more like evidence. "This company sells food," she said. "If hunger doesn't move us, we have no business being in this industry." No one applauded. That would have been too easy. Instead, something heavier settled over the room, the particular silence that arrives when power finally drops its mask. Camila laid a printed document on the table. "Ricardo Salazar, you're terminated, effective immediately. Your authority over regional operations is revoked, and legal will review every complaint denied under your supervision." Ricardo opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Camila turned to the rest of the room. "The ad campaign is cancelled. That budget goes toward a permanent community kitchen program in every location. Not for marketing. For people." She paused. "And Tomas Ibarra gets a public apology before the day is over." The apology reached Tomas's phone at 4:45, but he didn't see it right away. He was sitting on the edge of Sophia's bed, taping plastic sheeting over the window that let in too much cold, pretending it was a game and not a problem. There was a knock at the door. Not loud, not official. Just 3 soft knocks against old wood. Tomas got up slowly, half expecting the caseworker, or the landlord with another form demanding proof that he was enough. But when he opened the door, there stood Camila Ferrari. No gray coat this time. No disguise. No cameras behind her. Just a woman holding a box of hot food with both hands, and shame in her eyes. Tomas looked at her. Recognition arrived slow, then all at once. "Marina," he said. She shook her head, gently. "Camila. Camila Ferrari." Behind him, Sophia peeked out from the kitchen doorway. Camila looked at her and smiled with so much warmth that the wariness in Tomas's face softened. "I owe you both the truth," Camila said. "Is this pity?" Tomas asked. "No," she said, her voice steady even as her eyes filled. "This is justice, arriving late." She handed him a folder. Inside, a formal written apology from the company, confirmation that his suspension was lifted, back pay approved, his complaints reopened, and a new position. Regional Coordinator of Community Kitchens, with benefits, stable hours, and a salary that would finally stop social services from treating poverty like a character flaw. "I didn't ask for any of this," Tomas said. "I know," Camila said. "That's exactly why it matters." Sophia walked over then, holding out half a cookie wrapped in a napkin. "Are you the lady my dad gave soup to?" Camila crouched down to meet her eyes. Yes, sweetheart. That's me. Sophia studied her for a moment, then held the cookie out further. Around here, we share things. That undid Camila in a way no boardroom ever had. 6 months later, every location in the chain had a small table near the window with a simple sign, reserved for anyone who's hungry. No purchase required. No explanation needed. In the Villaflor location, beside that sign, hung a framed napkin with a heart drawn in purple crayon and a backward letter beside it. Tomas was never one for speeches, so he never gave any. He just showed up every morning, checked the pantry, greeted the staff by name, and made sure no kid, no parent, no stranger in a wet coat ever had to feel like hunger made them less human. Ricardo Salazar's name disappeared from the org chart. But Tomas's quiet dignity changed, permanently, how that company measured success. Not just in profit, but in bowls of soup served, doors held open, and people allowed to sit down before anyone made them prove they deserved to.